the streets, they need that. I'm in my own zone, I don't care about no feedback. Just label him a messenger, a warrior, somebody you should know. Exclusive with the flow, you can't buy this in no store. Alright.
What up, everybody who talks boxing, comments about boxing, and makes boxing videos? So, earlier today, I was listening to videos, and like I said yesterday, I don't got no beef with nobody, not even 68 Triumphant, and I'm all about practicing what I preach. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I actually did subscribe to him, and a video came up on my feed from him, and I watched it. And it was about being an unbiased channel. And at the very beginning of the video, he made a point that I really agree with, and that is unbiased channels do not exist. And the reason why I agree with that statement is because really everybody is biased. And biasness is always looked at as a bad thing when really it's not. It's not particularly a bad thing. It can be, but it's really just more a stigma more than anything else. Really, everybody who makes boxing videos, and not just boxing videos, but really when you talk about any subject, is going to be biased, because everybody is an individual. I'm a 30-year-old Mexican, Puerto Rican, American, born and raised in Florida. I'm not going to have the same perspective as somebody who is a 70-year-old African American who grew up in the same United States, even in Florida. His experiences are going to be different from my experiences. Upbringings are going to be different. We're just going to view the world from a different perspective. Even though we have certain things in common, I'm going to have a certain bias and they're going to have a certain bias, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, we use the word unbiased, and when that word is used, it's used in many different circumstances. One circumstance that 68 brought up was, that if you saw, basically if somebody saw something one way and then they convert their train of thought to your way and you call them unbiased because of that, that is one circumstance. Another, but that's not the only circumstance where somebody's called unbiased. I think, we just been using the term incorrectly, but really the word that a lot of us really should be using in many circumstances is the word fair. When you're making your boxing videos, are you giving it from a fair or an unfair perspective? Because even though I'm a Triple G fan, for instance, that doesn't mean that I just roll with whatever Triple G does or says, or Keith Thurman, or Manny Pacquiao, or any other fighter that I'm a fan of. Terrence Crawford, out of the greats, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, when I speak about these fighters, you're going to get a biased perspective, but I do everything in my power to also give you a fair perspective. And that's really what it comes down to. There's no bias and unbiased. there's fair and unfair. When I talk about a fighter that I don't like, do I only talk about the negatives? Do I say, I bet they're going to do, and then that's followed by a negative statement? Something that, I'm hoping that they do because I truly don't like them and I want to defame their character? That would be unfair. And fair is, for instance, I'm just going to use myself as an example. I'm not a Floyd Mayweather fan. I don't like Floyd Mayweather. I think he's arrogant. I think there are certain things that he did in his career that I don't particularly care for. But does that mean that I'm going to go and defame him? Does that mean that I'm only going to talk about the negative things, about, things in his past, things that have nothing to do with boxing? Or when I disagree with something, yes, I talk about it. But when there is credit to be given to Floyd Mayweather, do I also give credit there as well? If I'm giving credit where credit is due, still having my criticisms, because that doesn't mean that you just erase criticisms, but you acknowledge the good as well, then that means it's fair. But it's still, even when I'm fair, I'm still going to be biased, because you're not going to hear me praise him to the high heavens. You're not going to hear me, overexert myself to make him, basically place him on a pedestal. Just be fair. And that's just one example. Using Floyd Mayweather as an example just because he's one of the biggest names in boxing, if not the biggest name currently, even though he's retired. But just using him as an example. But, if I'm only going to hop on when when there's investigation on, the IV thing, for instance, but I'm not going to acknowledge his feats that he's done in the ring, I'm not going to acknowledge the positive things, then that is an unfair perspective. So, as far as unbiased and unbiased, I definitely agree with 68 Triumphant. He's definitely right. If you're going to go by the literal definition of unbiased, then you're not really going, it just doesn't exist. Unless you're a boxing channel that only talks about fights that you don't like or dislike either fighter. Which, to my knowledge, there's nobody who's going to do that, because essentially you have no interest. You don't care who wins or loses. So bias is not necessarily a bad thing, but if we are talking about the literal definition of bias and unbiased channels simply do not exist, but there are fair and unfair channels. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think. Leave a comment. Tell my subscribers, anybody who watches my videos, or if you just so happen to stumble upon this video, hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace.
You think you gon' stop the